Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attendance, members of the media. The National Executive Committee of the ANC held its ordinary meeting over 3 days, 19 to the 21st September, at St. George's Hotel in Tshwane. And we must remind each other all the time that that meeting took place few days after 84 South Africans lost their lives in the tragic disaster at the Synagogue Church of All Nations in Nigeria. The NEC sends its condolences to their families and friends. We commend the work being done by its own government to repatriate their remains back home and provide support to the affected families and the injured. And I think as a nation, we owe it to ourselves to be caring during difficult times. Among others, the NEC considered the political overview delivered by the President, the report of the Integrity Commission, the state of local government, the report from the National Working Committee. It also conducted a detailed analysis of the balance of forces domestically. Any revolution is about people, and people need ongoing attention to ensure the revolution is not derailed. So a revolution is not about parties, it's about the people. And therefore, to engage the people on an ongoing basis is actually very critical for the revolution not to be derailed. Political consciousness is a function of ongoing work being done among the people. This will include organizing and mobilizing all strata of society. We're making this point because from time to time we talk about the middle strata as the only strata that need attention. We must mobilize and engage all strata in society. The emergence of a right-wing coalition among political parties is one of convenience. Because if you look a coalition between the FF and the DA, you can see that there's nothing that brings them together. There's convenience, and what brings them together is their common animals towards the ANC. Their only intention is to derail the revolution, and therefore they qualify to be called a counter-revolutionary coalition. To this end, the ANC noted the extent to which parliament processes have descended into chaos and unruly offensive on the ANC in parliament. Parliament itself and on democracy in our country, hooliganism and insults are at an unprecedented levels, and are unfortunately being defined as a tool of engagement. And they call it a robust discussion. The decorum and dignity of Parliament as an institution is being dragged through the mud under the cover of right to be robust. And I was asking one person over the weekend, what is robust about showing the middle finger to the president of the country? There's nothing robust about that. It must be seen for what it is and not be characterized as part of robust engagement. The NEC also acknowledged the drive to amend the constitution by stealth. South Africa has adopted a party-based electoral system, with every member of parliament being a party parliamentary representative. Therefore, the Constitution of the Republic states that at the first sitting, after its election and when necessary to fill a vacancy, the National Assembly must elect a speaker and a deputy speaker from among its members. And all those members will be party representatives. And they elect a speaker from among the members. Therefore, the appointment of the current speaker is therefore consistent with the Constitution. The touted motion of no confidence, therefore, was an attempt to irregularly amend the Constitution. When some political analysts do not see this hypocrisy, I was reading to Msan Klopp yesterday, and I came to the conclusion that this tells the story of the intellectual poisoning our country is subjected to, and is very dangerous to our society. Let me make a point He said there's a big issue about the national chairman of the ANC being the speaker. There's no point being made about both the premier and the speaker in the Western Cape legislature being DA leaders. Nobody talks about that. And that told you the hypocrisy in the engagement, by the way. It is this really that informed the decision that in order to account to our people, the ANC should continue to rely more on direct contact with them in resource. Now, I want the SAPC to correct this because they were having headlines that we say the president must never go to parliament again. That's not what we're saying. We say we should account to our people by being more aggressive in direct engagement. Because at this point in time, the ANC has a revolutionary duty to defend itself, to defend the revolution, and to defend democracy. Similarly, Parliament has a duty to protect its dignity and integrity and thus be less tolerant of deviant behavior. Parliament cannot be a battleground. Its members have been elected by voters and thus carry their hopes and aspirations for progressive and constructive engagement. And debate and responding to questions requires space to do so. Disruption of the same process is tantamount to an exercise in futility. It doesn't help, it is not in the interest of society to invite President to Parliament to answer questions and never give him space to answer those questions, disrupt him. The every President go and try to answer questions to disrupt that process. That is an exercise in futility. That's why we say we should step up our direct contact with our people, talk to them directly, because Parliament must be according to its rules. Unfortunately, rules are meant for normal people. When people are not normal, rules do not apply. They don't work when people are abnormal. Rules are meant for normal people. The Afghan National Congress must focus even more on its program and implementation thereof aggressively. The criticism we are facing is a result of slow implementation. We have thus agreed to intensify our organizational renewal campaign of Imvusela as well as marking of the 60th anniversary of the Freedom Charter. In the build-up to the 60th anniversary, which is next year, June, the ANC will be holding Freedom Charter forums where society will critically reflect on its progressive values and the progress made towards its realization. Our Back to Basics program in local government is informed by this understanding to accelerate the pace of change. The NEC further called for an intensification of investment in labor-intensive sectors of our economy to deal with the challenge of unemployment, particularly among young people. For example, in the analysis, there was one good example that was made. At this point in time, the agriculture as a sector of the economy is contributing about 2.5% to the GDP. But it has the potential to contribute about 12%. Therefore, there must be conscious investment in that sector to ensure that it increases contribution to the GDP of the country. It further reaffirmed the need for a comprehensive discussion on the impact of long strikes on the economy and the well-being of workers and families. A regulatory framework must be developed without interfering with the right to strike. But we can't allow an open-ended dispensation where a strike can go on and on and on and on. We have an experience of a strike that went for a year in Britain. But the aftermath of that strike was the demise of the National Union of Mine Workers in Britain. And we don't think we should be reckless in that regard. They need to finalize the date of the National General Council and the program leading up to it, and the program leading to the local government election in 2016. And the NGC, which will be held on the 26th to 29 June 2015 in Gauteng province, the NGC agreed that the January 8th celebration, which is our 103rd anniversary celebration, will be held in the Western Cape, in line with our approach of rotating these national events. Next year, we'll have our January 8th statement in the Western Cape. We're giving you enough notice so that you are invited to attend in the Western Cape. The debate is whether it will be in Cape Town or it will be in some rural town in the Western Cape. That decision will be finalized. I was looking to venues. The Integrity Commission presented its preliminary report on all the cases they have identified. The NEC noted the report and required the Integrity Commission to continue its work and table the final report to the National Working Committee for further processing. They highlighted a number of cases they're looking at and how far they've gone with each of those cases. We said, go back, do your work, don't be rushed, finalize them, go to NWC, and we process those cases and finalize them. On the state of the organization, the NEC confirmed the dissolution of the Regional Executive Committee of Krizani Region and discussed the state of the organization in all the leagues, all three of them. The NEC will work and continue to give support to the ANC Women's League and the ANC Youth League as they prepare for their national conferences. And the sense of agency was highlighted in the National Executive Committee that those conferences are urgent now. But we also cautioned ourselves not to be fixated on dates, but to ensure that we have conferences that will be rich in content and not go to a conference only to focus on the election of leadership, but on conferences that will actually help us rebuild this league and strengthen them. On the state, and therefore, on international relations, the NEC took the following decisions. One, to support the government initiative and special envoys appointed to facilitate peace processes in Lesotho, in South Sudan, and Sri Lanka. To support the Cuban Solidarity Program with particular focus on the campaign for the release of the Cuban 5. We know that of the Cuban 5, one is released already, now it's Cuban 4, and lifting of the illegal and illegitimate American blockade on Cuba. We supported the report of the Socialist Internationalist Body of Social Democratic Parties of the world. That is what the Socialist International is about. Many people, what is the Socialist International? It's the second international for those who understand. And it's a body of social democratic parties of the world, of which the ANC is a member. Among the facing member parties are confronting the concentration of wealth in the hands of few in the world. The reality that 50% of the wealth of the world is in the hands of 1% of the world population. The growing inequality, there's a need to find a formula for wealth redistribution. Migration is another growing problem, with more children and teenagers crossing borders unaccompanied, and sexual assaults having become weapons of war. Endorsement of the program of solidarity with Palestinians, particular focus on the intensification of the engagement in multilateral institutions, joining the call for cultural, academic, and education boycott of Israel, including travel bans for members and leaders of the ANC, the Alliance, members of cabinet, members of parliament, and government officials. We say it should be only in case of life and death that any of these members will be traveling to Israel. Otherwise, we say we should not go to Israel as long as there is this state of war there, because it's an unequal conflict. The Palestinians are the oppressed, and that dignity is taken away from them every day. Companies that do business in the occupied territory, such as Cape Gate, G4 Security, and Caterpillar, must not be allowed to do business with the state, and goods manufactured in the occupied territory should be boycotted. Finally, development of a comprehensive program of solidarity during the UN Month of Solidarity with Palestine, which is November. We will work very hard to ensure that there is a comprehensive program in South Africa during the UN Month of Solidarity with Cuba. That is the end of our statement. I'm handing over to my boss, Zizi Koda.
Thank you very much, SG. As customary, we shall take questions. Let's take a round of 5, if any, if not clear. With the first hand, Colin.
Colin.
No. Just noting you. Which is the second? 2. Or we only have 2 hands? 3? I think the statement is much more clear. We only have 3 hands, that's cool. Colin?
All right, thank you very much. Colin from ENCA. Secretary General, just a point of clarity on the protection of the President and his deputy in Parliament. How exactly do you envisage this being done, given that these 2 figures, or should we say the executive, ought to account to Parliament? How then does the party envisage them being protected by Parliament? What needs to be done?
Next to you.
Thank you very much. I'm Lebokang Siale from Independent. A follow-up question on my colleague here in terms of protection for the President. I'm just wondering there, shouldn't you be talking about respect for the President than protection or defense for the President? Surely the President is not an absolute monarch. He's accountable, he should answer questions. You seem to be more concerned about shooting him away, than allowing him to answer questions. So I suppose that respect should be the concern there than defense or protection. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I was just checking the word protection, where does it come from? But I take it comes from your question, not from the statement. The third one?
SABC. SG, just on the state of the organization, I'd like to know what is happening with the regional conferences, because it appears that some of them have turned violently, like in Mpumalanga. So what is the ANC doing about that?
You mean ANC or Youth League? Or just general?
Generally, yeah.
Okay. I give it to Karim.
Thank you. Karim Du Plessis from City Press newspaper. I also have a question on the conferences. How is the fundraising going for the conferences? There was a report, and I've heard that the Youth League is still waiting for enough money to hold its conference. And it seems the costs have grown by about 5 million since the last time we reported on it. So how's the fundraising going for that? And the Gauteng conference, the postponement of that, what was said about that by the NEC? How do you feel about that? And just a last question about Nigeria. Did the ANC engage directly with the Nigerian government or on a party-to-party level with Nigeria, or was this solely left to diplomats?
Maybe let's just take you as the last round, right at the back.
My name is Mutlanyan from SABC. I would like to know as to the continuing banning of Dalai Lama, the continuing prevention of him accessing a visa to visit this country. What is the ANC stand on this? Now that the Nigerian pastor, at his church, people died, and he's saying that he's going to visit this country every month. Because they are believed that he's gaining more of his wealth from South Africans. Now that his compound has collapsed, he now wants to visit the country every month to come and do his dirty work. Just a comment as to what is the ANC stance on this. Not allowing the Dalai to come to this country, whereas someone who's tainted is he's going to visit the country every month.
Yes,
I don't know where do you derive the definition, protection of the president, the deputy president. I don't know where you get that. And how are they going to account to Parliament? It's exactly what we're correcting with SAPC. That all we're emphasizing 2 things. That listen, the more Parliament gets disrupted and the space for answering questions is closed, the less relevant it is for purposes of engaging our people. and therefore direct contact with our people will be a different channel of talking to our people. And it's a channel that will emphasize not because we're closing the other one and opening the other one. That is the first thing that we say, let's have more infoselelo, more in-business, in communities, talk to people directly, explain the work that is being done by the President, Deputy President, and ministers. That we say that program should be more intensified. Number two, because only when you have that space to account to the people, because we're not just accounting to Parliament, we account to Parliament, we account to people through the Parliament. So we say we must create this and intensify this alternative channel of accounting to the people. Secondly, we say the Parliament must do its work and tighten its rules and not allow deviant behavior in Parliament. That's what we're saying. If that is equal to shielding or protecting the President, I don't understand what is. That's why I'm asking the question, in your own view as journalists, what is robust and accountable when you show a Deputy President a middle finger in Parliament? Is that in terms of the journalistic observation, the acceptable way that Parliament must go there, they can be shown a middle finger, they can be insulted, they can be insulted, they can be disrupted? Is that what you say? And we're saying that is not acceptable. As far as we're concerned, the President must go to Parliament and be given space to answer questions. You don't disrupt a process of answering questions and then cry foul and say, questions have not been answered. How will they be answered if we are all singing when the questions are being answered? Space must be given for questions to be answered, but let's not look at the Parliament as the prime channel of communicating with our people. Let's have in-business talk to our people. That's what I'm saying. So it is your definition that says that is protection, that is shielding. That's not what we're saying. Regional conferences and violence in Mpumalanga. There are not many regional conferences. It's not like the national conference here. Specific provinces are running the regional conferences because it is time for regional conferences. When there is violence, we deal with that case on the case-to-case basis. There is no general violence in ANC conferences. The Youth League, for example, has completed 43 regional conferences. There are only a few where there were problems. In a number of those, they went smoothly without any disruption. So there can be no general definition of regional conferences as being violent. There's no such a thing. That's why I'm giving you the number, the exact number of the Youth League conferences that have been run. There are 43. And many of them have gone without incident. There will be a problem in OR Tambo, a problem in a provincial conference in the Northwest, coming from Rosemont Party Regional Conference of the Youth and so forth. But there's no general violence in regional conferences. So we deal with those cases on the case-to-case basis. They're okay. The Gauteng conference, I don't know what is the issue with the Gauteng conference. The conference of Gauteng will be 4 and 5. 3 to the 3 to the 5. That is a scheduled conference of Gauteng. It will go ahead as scheduled. There's no problem. It's a normal conference. Let me preempt this question. There were people who were asking the question that, but there have been no regional conferences in Gauteng. There's no requirement for regional conferences. In the constitution of the ANC, branches are having conferences every 2 years. Regions have conferences every 3 years. Provinces have conferences every 4 years. National conferences held after 5 years. So they will not always be aligned that you have a build-up of regional conferences before you go to the provincial conferences. Regional conferences are held when regions are due for conferences. After the Gauteng conference should have been held in May, it was delayed because of the elections. Many of the regions in Gauteng are due in November and December, and one of them is due for its regional conference next year, because that's when the 3 years term of regional conferences end. So it's not like there's a system of having press conferences, then have regional conference, then have a provincial conference, then have a national conference. When we go to the national conference in 2017, regional provinces like Gauteng will not go to provincial conference in 2017 because their conference will be due in 2018. That's how it works. We just comply with the constitution. So I am giving you that information so that there must be no confusion about a system of a graduated policy when you go to conferences. There's no such. Terms are differentiated in terms of the level of the organs of the ANC. Fundraising, I don't know, Karim, what you want about fundraising?
There was a report that there's not enough funds for the youth conference.
Who reported that?
Sunday Times.
I'm not the Sunday Times, I'm the Secretary General of the ANC. I'm not the Secretary General of the Sunday Times. I'm the Secretary General of the African National Congress.
It was said in the NWC 2 weeks ago where you were as well, and that was in the Sunday Times. That was something like that.
I didn't see that. I didn't see you in the NWC either. We're going to have the conferences as scheduled. That's all I can tell you. How we raise funds for conferences is our business. And we do it effectively. We hold our conference with the IQ all the time. I can tell you with my eyes closed that 16 to 20 December 2017, there will be National Conference of the ANC. Now, if you say, you read in Sunday Times, there is a problem of funds and so forth, then I think you are being unfair to me, really. Actually, I see that as an attempt to tell to us how many contacts talk to you in the ANC. I'm not interested in that. Is the government talking to the Nigerian government? Yes, it does. And that's why we have left that issue at the level of government to government and behind it at a diplomatic level. It's not a party-to-party issue at this point in time. I didn't understand the last question about the Dalai Lama versus Pastor Joshua. No, I don't understand the relationship, except that that is confusion of issues. My understanding, because we did check this, there will be no denial of a visa for the Dalai Lama. That's it. He applied and withdraw and cancelled the application. That's what we understand. Now, I don't think we have a responsibility to issue a visa and just chase the Dalai Lama and say, please take this visa. Everybody coming to South Africa will apply for a visa, it will be granted, and there's no person not to deny a visa for the Dalai Lama. Number two, I don't know how to link that to Pastor Joshua. I don't understand the relationship there.
Especially the lawyers. I mean
Okay.
Sorry.
I usually don't make comments when the SG is addressing press conferences because it is his press conference. But there is nowhere in the statement, and the ANC will never say this, there is nowhere in the statement where the ANC says the president must not go and account to Parliament. It's not in the statement, and the ANC will never say so. And I think we must make that point so that there is no headline, a wrong headline that says so. However, Parliament must sort itself out so that as President and Deputy do their constitutional responsibility to do so, they do so in an environment that they're able to do so. At the moment, we could be entertained by what is happening in Parliament, but we don't think it is arriving. It can't be condoned in a manner we write, in a manner we report. Nobody can say to the President and his Deputy or any member of the Executive must not account or anyway. And I think it may be important to clarify. That's why the issue about protection, we were looking at some statement here, whether it's in our statement, but I don't know now it's not in the statement. Can we take, if there are other further questions? Where's my mic? Can we start here? I almost forgot that I have people seated on my right. Because
SG, thank you from Sowetan. I just wanted to ask, you spoke of the Back to Basics strategy. Now, you had a meeting, the NEC had a meeting with mayors. Can you just get a sense of the discussions thereof? You know, what instructions they were given? And what do you hope will be achieved and when? Is there a set target of when you want them to shape up? And you've also spoken about a sense of urgency with regards to two conferences of the ANC Women's League and the ANC Youth League. With regards to the ANC Women's League, they were supposed to have held that conference, but they say they are not ready. And they proposed a date in March. Now,
they proposed a date in May.
In April. Yes, next year. Yes. Now, has that been accepted by the NEC? I think that's all for now.
Okay. Next two.
Natasha from the Business Day. SG, I just wanted to check whether the ANC has discussed the pronouncements by the Reserve Bank Governor that she's not going to stand for another 5 years. I know it's the decision of the President to reappoint, but her term comes to an end in November. I just wanted to get some clarity on whether that was discussed at the NEC. Thank you.
There's a hand next to you, Natasha.
I'm Khalang Bata from Bloomberg News. With relation to Natasha's question, if it was discussed at the NEC in terms of the Reserve Bank governors not renewing her contract, were there any specific names that were put up or suggested, recommended by the NEC in terms of successors at the bank? Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Sunita Hansi from the Main Guardian. SG, on Friday you said that the ANC would discuss in detail the state of municipalities and local government, and you mentioned something called hotspots, and you said you were going to get a report because the NWC went to all municipalities. I was just wondering if you could please perhaps share with us the findings of that particular discussions or conclusions of that particular discussion. Thank you.
I want to go back to the two hands, because I don't want them to leave with that wrong impression. Colin?
All right. Thank you, Tony, again from the NCA. Secretary General, your statement at the weekend, you explicitly say the Parliament has a responsibility and duty to ensure that the President continues to account to Parliament without him facing, without him or his office being subjected to behavior that undermines that institution. Explicitly, yes. What is it that you want Parliament to do?
Thank you. This is different from what you're asking earlier about protection. Say again?
Yeah. In the statement, you speak about the Integrity Commission having presented its preliminary report on the cases they've identified. If I recall, this commission was established in Mangaung 2012, and one of the resolutions was that it will have the powers to suspend or dismiss members without waiting for the protracted legal processes. And however, there seems to be concerns that the commission, appears not to be taking off in terms of really doing and performing its duties. I can cite the example of, for example, Pulemari. He's standing for a crucial position in the ANC Youth League, yet there's a cloud hanging over him. Is that part of the cases that have been considered? And are you looking at speeding up the work of that commission? Thank you.
The last hand, Karen. I want my office to get the resolution exactly so that your interpretation is corrected of the Integrity Commission. What's the SG's response? Karen?
Okay,
can someone get me the resolution?
I was going to ask something about the Integrity Commission too, because I see there was a report and I just wanted to know some more information about what was discussed around the Integrity Commission at the NEC, and also whether the matter of the Nkandla report by the Public Protector, whether it was mentioned by the Integrity Commission or whether they're actually looking at it in some other way.
Those are the last hands. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see.
The meeting with the mayors You must remember that that meeting of the mayors followed the visit to 51 regions by the NWC. Only 2 regions have not been visited by the NWC. One is the Kisani region in the Eastern Cape, the second one is Namakwa in the Northern Cape. Every other region has been visited, and the NWC has interacted with mayors, councillors, branch secretaries and chairperson, and therefore meeting them here, taking the advice that they were already in Gauteng, was a continuation of that program. And the instruction is very simple, that if they are public representatives, they must actually not only declare, they must be seen to be prepared to serve the people. And what I like about the back to basics approach is that the emphasis half the time is on mega projects. But the real thing of local government is that they must cut grass, they must fill potholes, they must repair leakages of sewage and water, they must go to all those issues. And that is the expectation of the people from any municipality. And we were quite comfortable with the framework on various areas of local government, whether it is good governance, financial management, and all those things. That is what was discussed under the back to basics, and that is what we engaged the mayors on. That, for example, you see, politicians sometimes believe that audit reports are not important because these conservative accountants. We say you can't talk of good governance and clean governance if you ignore audit reports. Audit reports are very important. They constitute the cornet of good governance. So, in brief, that is what we're engaging the mayors on. And it's a continuation of the work. We'll go back to what we call hotspots. Somebody asked that question. Hotspots are what in that analysis of the report are municipalities that are almost dysfunctional. They have been identified by name. This municipality is dysfunctional, it's in this province, and that's where we're going to go as the NWC. When we do that second round of visits, we'll be spending, say, 2 days with a set of municipalities in a province, have a detailed engagement of which areas are actually of concern that lead to that municipality being described as dysfunctional. That is the essence of the work we're doing at local government. The ANC Women's League set a date in April, Natasha. Who was talking about it? Oh, it was, okay. In April, no. The NEC said they must try to move that date closer. But the proposal of having it in December was proved to be unworkable, because there should be a full audit of branches. Number 2, there should be a correction of weaknesses that have identified. There should be BGMs, then we can go to a conference. And the NEC was saying at latest it should be at about February. But there was an agreement that says it can be a duty of the NEC to sit in an NEC of the ANC and say, when is the date of the Women's League, when is the date of the ANC Youth League? Normally, the NEC, through the officials, interact with those structures and set dates. So that date will not be able to be earlier than April, to be about February. The same applies to the Youth League. There has been an agreement that let's accelerate the process to the Youth League, but because structures were disbanded, it is unwise to rush to a conference when there are 4 provinces that have not gone to their conferences, when there are 10 regions that have not gone to their conferences. The right thing would be to complete that process, then get to conference. The likelihood is that the Youth League conference will be in November. That is the likelihood. The governor of the Reserve Bank governing her retirement and not renewing her contract is the end of the term. It's not an announcement, basically. All the governor of the Reserve was saying, goodbye, this is my last MPC meeting, I'm not renewing my contract. And the due process will be followed to replace the governor of the Reserve Bank. The NEC doesn't take time to discuss names, who will be the next governor of the Reserve Bank and so forth, because there are processes that are followed in that regard. What should Parliament do? The Parliament should do basic things. It must enforce its rules. That's what it should do. If Parliament doesn't enforce its rules, it will remain chaos and it will be a joke. Parliament must enforce its rules. And people must comply with the rules. If you are deviating from the rules, Parliament must be harsh. And rules allow for harsh actions to be taken for deviant behavior. Do not report of the Integrity Commission. The reason we call preliminary is because it is not complete. And I don't know if you have forgotten it, because some would say it seems as if it's not functioning. And that person just chooses to forget that at one time we reported the report of the Integrity Commission when it was dealing with the case of Diana Pule, the case of Tony Yengin and all those cases. Those were completed. So it's not the first preliminary report. We had one report where there are cases that are completed. There are many cases that are being handled now, including Pulemabe's case. We didn't talk about Nkandla, we didn't talk about the public protector in the NEC. The answer to that one is we did not at all.
Thank you, SG. I just thought I should make a reference to the resolution on the establishment of the Integrity Commission. Because what we noted at the conference was the gradual erosion of the ANC core values. And we said, among other things, that the conference must establish the Integrity Commission at all levels of the organization, because more urgent steps needed to be taken to protect the image of the organization. It's important to note that. To protect the image of the organization and enhance its standing in society, among others, that urgent steps must be taken to deal with public officials, leaders, and members of the ANC who face damaging allegation and improper conduct. It may just be important not to interpret the resolution, but to understand it in this context. In the absence of, you're still on Dalai Lama and Pastor T.T. Joshua? Dalai Lama only? Okay. There's a Dalai Lama question, maybe the last question there. He's not happy about it, your answer.
Sorry to dwell on this question. You know, there are reports to the effect that the Nobel Peace laureates have written a letter to the President asking him to intervene in the, they are due to meet in Cape Town for their meeting, or summit, or whatever I can call it. And they have asked the President to intervene in the granting of Dalai Lama visa. There are perceptions out there that the South African government, which is an ANC government, which is known to be, a fighter for human rights policies, is now abandoning the stance in favor of investments. What is your comment?
Thank you.
Let me first of all explain how the NEC works. We don't collect media reports and make them an agenda items on the NEC of the ANC. If Nobel Peace laureates write to the President, there's an office of the President that must deal with that issue. We don't take that to the NEC and have a discussion on that issue. So there was no discussion on the letter of the Nobel Peace laureates in the National Executive Committee of the ANC. The answer I gave you earlier is where we stand. Our understanding is that there is no denial of a visa to the Dalai Lama. But the Dalai Lama must apply for the visa and that will be processed duly, and that's it. If he withdraws it, the South African government cannot have an obligation to go after him and chase him with the visa. He must just apply for the visa, and that's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our briefing. Thank you very much. Thank you, SG.
There becomes a point in the history of a nation where you either submit or you fight.
Members of the outlawed African National Congress.
I was for 6 months already. I had a choice to come with him or to stay.
Things are going to be sacrificed, and it is going to be painful. They took Zulu to
a lot of the difficulties that we were going through at the time.
Because you also need something to compare it against. That was normal for us. I had, a resentment as to an explanation. Why now, who are you?
The connection just wasn't there, the father and the son.